impressive as they are in their activism, don't, as Pinsker, don't understand the roots, how deep the problem to some extent is, and that's why it's still with us. It still comes back. They proved that they had this high-minded desire when they emancipated us. Now he's speaking of the enlightened governments in Europe in the 19th century and late 18th century. But where there are a large number of Jews, meaning in Poland and in Russia and even in France where he's encountered it, the problem persists. And if it didn't exist, Jewish immigrants would bring it, like to America to the Lower East Side. We are naturally drawn to places where we are not persecuted, and our appearance there gives rise to the persecution. So, he may be talking about places like England or America. This will inevitably be so. France, he cites here. In highly civilized countries like France, so long as the Jewish question is not solved on the political level. And he said it before, or it was Pinsker who said it before. I think Pinsker in Emancipation said it before in Auto Emancipation. They only deal with individual Jews. They don't deal with the Jews as a nation. So that's what he means about solving on the political level. I think the Armenians would understand this. The Armenians now have homelands, but for a while they were disenfranchised and the Turkish massacres could occur. If they have to deal with a country, it's a little different. And the Kurds are experiencing that now, and have experienced that for a long time. Nobody has given them anything. And I'm afraid that in the present configuration of forces in Iraq, they're going to end up in the short end of the stick again. Because they're the weakest entity when it comes to Arabs, Turks, and Iranians. No one even knew Kurds existed before 5 years ago in this country. And yet they've been disenfranchised and everything else. And we who care for people who are underdogs or disenfranchised should really, in America, we should care about the Kurdish question. We shouldn't let the Iranians, the Turks, the other parts of Iraq overwhelm them. We did protect them after the first Gulf War, but only because we were trying to undermine Saddam. I don't think we really cared about the Kurds. Anyway, so this is the case, will inevitably be so, unless the question is solved on a political level. That's why he's speaking about political Zionism. These Jews are now carrying the seeds of anti-Semitism to England and have already introduced it into America. It's highly complex. So on. He speaks about commercial rivalry, inherited prejudice, religious intolerance. I consider the Jewish question neither a social nor a religious one, even though it sometimes takes these forms. It's a national question. And to solve it, we must first of all establish it as an international political problem to be discussed and settled by the civilized nations of the world in council. Well, that's what happened in the League of Nations after the First World War. And that's what's now happening in the UN, and you see how that works. I mean, the UN is like a joke. It's, if you were going to leave it to the so-called civilized nations in council to solve anything, you'd surely be on the way to destruction. So he is, I praised him, and now you say, you've praised him, now look at, you're criticizing. You know, that's the way it goes. You know, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. He's got his pluses and his minuses. But his achievements outweigh, because he's put this on the table, this question. We are a people. One people. Now, you see, no one really has said that previously. The Jews are a people. You know, you say, well, look, you're Americans now. What's your problem? I don't think the Jews in America have a particular problem more than any other group in America. I mean, if you're a Korean in America, you're of the Korean people. If you're a Japanese in America, you're of the Japanese people. If you're a Native American, you're of the Indian or Native American people. So we have room for these ethnic configurations within the American social structure. So America is fairly unique in that regard, but most of these countries in Europe saw themselves as peoples. So the Jews were outside of this structure. Anyway, he sees the Jews as a people. Originally the Jews were a people, not just a religion. And after the 2 wars against Rome, as we studied in this class, they lost their national territorial attachment. I don't think they lost their peoplehood. And that's what all the nations of Europe realized. They were not assimilating. Now, the Jews themselves, what about the Jews themselves? What do they think? Well, if you ask most Jews what they are, they won't say that they're a people. Most Jews meet in America, oh, it's a religion. They don't, they've lost, they've lost, I don't say they're confused. They've lost this understanding that Herzl vividly portrays. Now, you have to judge for yourself. Do you think the Jews are a religion or a people? We're not going to solve it in this class, but that's the question that he's asking. I think that in his world, at his time, in his social situation, he's correct. The Jews are a people, and therefore they should be, dealt with as a people. Hitler certainly dealt with them as a people. He didn't ask, did you believe? He didn't believe, are you a reform? Are you conservative? Are you a communist? Are you a socialist? Are you an atheist? It wasn't his, that was not even the question. He went to 2 or 3 generations back, even in converted people. So he understood that they were a people, or at least that's how he behaved, and those who were working with him. Anyway, so you'll have to decide about your view of Herzl. In native lands where we live, the next paragraph, we have been decried as aliens, which is true. That's what we heard. We hear the Germans have said, the Russians say it. I think you'll see it in England even today if you go to England. I don't think you see it in America anymore that much because of the special situation of America. Now Europe is getting to have to realize that there are different peoples that are becoming Europeans. They're beginning to come out of the dark ages. A little late, but they're beginning to emerge. The majority decide who the alien is. This, and in all else in relations between people, is a matter of power. This is the majority, I think blacks in America can vouch for that. Anyway, he goes on to that. Goes on like that, but there's a break here, but in his conclusion he says,